We have a disturbing in a good way for
A
Apocaflix
poster.
now. I think Smashing Padme is our alternate Padawan shirt.
I can't.
Oh my goodness. There
I
we
can't, dude. I cannot get that out of my head.
That's
I
how it
think you
happened.
just permanently ruined that scene with me
Oh my
of
God.
Hold
Obi-Wan
on.
just standing at
Now
the
you guys
top
are gonna be
with his
thinking
arms on his
about
hips.
Oh my God.
Hold on.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Padawan podcast from Apocaflix Movies. My name is Jake Berlin, aka Qui-Gon Jake, as I go on this show. And this is our All Star Wars show. We're breaking down everything from the galaxy far, far away. And today we are specifically talking two different things. One is the Mandalorian docuseries that's been airing on Disney Plus, and the main topic for today is Solo. The reason why is because it has been deemed Make Solo to happen week, essentially. That was this past Monday, and we're going to be talking Solo, kind of going back in time a little bit and discussing the movie and possibilities for a sequel and what we think of the movie. So to do that with me today, per usual, is the normal crew. I got Obi-Wan Jacoby right there in the middle. How you doing, man?
Hello there. I'm pretty good, man. How are you?
Good. And then we got Grand Admiral Cena over there on the right-hand side. How you doing over there, Brian?
Doing well. Try not to melt.
That is very true. Yes, we are now in prime California heat, and it is not feeling too well.
No, it's 103 right now, if you're wondering.
Yeah, it's what, 18 at night? That's just not fair. That is just not fair.
That's why I'm glad I live in a small apartment. I just blast the AC. It's good to go. It's cold in here in like 10 minutes.
Brian, you got to be doing the same thing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, I will pay for my comfort. All right.
I try to go as long as I can, and then once I just hit that point, I'm like, nope, and then it just runs. So,
so we're gonna be starting off with the Mandalorian docuseries, the Disney Gallery show, and we have the last two episodes to talk about. We did a kind of doing a little catch up on the series so far, and so we're now caught up on 3 and 4. We have the cast episode, and then we have the technology episode. I'll just say this right off the bat. Episode 4 is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's incredible.
I mean, I love myself technology. And when you combine that with Star Wars, and we know what Star Wars has done in the past for technology, I mean, I watched it twice in a row because I was so enamored by it. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Like, it is absolutely mind-blowing. The way Jon Favreau's head works, I would just love to see that, like, from an inside-out perspective of what it actually looks like to see his head going, back and forth on all these projects he does.
He's a genius, man.
I mean, this show is slowly starting to show you, like, why when Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau team up together, it's just absolute brilliance, because the way those two's minds work is unlike anything I've ever seen someone do. It's incredible, just their thought processes or the way they think about things. It's beyond your standard movie, TV, video game. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I honestly, I was totally not able to keep up with the technology they were actually talking about. But I was still fascinated just of what it was accomplishing. I get what they were saying, but this was my first time ever hearing about some of these things. So it was really cool to see some of it, and especially how they're able to do things that George Lucas wanted to do, but he couldn't. And like you said, Star Wars has always been at the forefront of advancing technology in film, and it's this show is at the forefront of advancing this technology in TV shows and streaming, and being able to make them cost effectively while still feeling large. So I think it was probably the most informative episode so far, for sure.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I was watching the entire time thinking to myself, man, could you imagine if George Lucas got his hands on this? And then they go to the George's Garage stuff.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Totally made sense. But yeah, it's just, it's crazy. And you're listening, like, just in the very beginning of the episode. I love how they started. And I know we're not talking about 3 too much because 4 is just genius. But the beginning of the episode, how they just essentially put the camera on Jon Favreau and he went through all the movies that he's been doing and talked about how the technology has grown. And I can't believe that we knew the technology on The Lion King was incredible, but he literally filmed the film in VR, which is that is so mind blowing to me that he was literally had a joystick in his hand and he was following the herd of animals through the quarry on the Mufasa scene with a VR and goggles to film it. Like, that is insane to me.
Yeah, it's incredible how like video game technology is able to just influence anything. Like, I mean, you have video game technology being used in the military, in video games, just standard video games, movies, television, that whole thing. It seems with every single like year, it just gets even more crazy advanced. And it took me like half the fourth episode to realize that when they were talking about that volume, it wasn't like the TV volume. Like I was like, why didn't they keep talking about like the volume sound? And then just once it like broke it down, I was just like, holy cow. Can you imagine I remember just being amazed when here in Sacramento when they had the Dome Theater and it was kind of like that. Can you imagine being fully encompassed in a world that's fake but
parallax?
Yeah. It's insane. Like, and it's funny because when they were talking about the lava scene at the very end, like they showed it, and even for like the 3 seconds they showed it, I was like, is the boat moving? And it's not. And then right after she says yeah, I was getting motion sickness. I was like, I would throw up immediately thinking, because it looks real. It looked absolutely real. I can't even imagine being an actor acting like that and just doing your stuff and just seeing that like out of the corner of your eyes. Or like Carl Weathers was saying, he was looking forward acting and the tunnel was getting bigger and behind him it was getting smaller and he couldn't even concentrate like on what he was saying because he was just watching the stuff. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I was thinking about how like, man, they went from like, okay, we have no option but to go shoot on practical sets, fly to other countries and shoot these scenes, to like, oh, let's just build it and stay in LA or wherever they are in Hollywood and film it there. And I'm like, well, I don't know which one is like cheaper. I guess building it and doing it in Hollywood is cheaper. I'm guessing, because I'm like, wouldn't you want to go find like some cool cave in another country that like looks cool? But I guess that's what they used to do, and now they're just like changing the game and just building all these sets and using technology. So it's insane, because I'm wondering as actors like what they prefer. And to a lot of these actors, it seemed like it was new to them, working out with all these special effects and everything. Like Carl Weathers seemed to be very amused by it. And my favorite person to hear talking in this is Carl Weathers, especially from the actors.
Mm-hmm.
And in the cast episode, because he's just he goes in depth on what he's talking about. And I loved how he was saying how he wanted to read the script, because he wants to make sure that like it's something that he can be behind and not just because it's Star Wars, join it. So I heavily enjoyed these last 2 episodes.
Yeah, it was interesting going to the cast one that he was originally supposed to die. He was only supposed to be a supporting character in 2 episodes, in the first and the third episode. Then he was going to die, and he was originally going to be an alien, and they're going to cover his face. And then they came to, and they're like, "Why, we're idiots? Why would we do this?"
I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, imagine hearing his
just for
voice
Carl Weathers.
Yeah,
his voice in some weird alien. Like you'd be like, "Oh, that's Carl Weathers talking in an 100%. Alien."
100%. Yeah, it's interesting. I and what you were saying, Jacob, about what they prefer and everything, and going to sets and shooting in this. I love how it's not just what they were saying is that it's not just all digitally created.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like
I love how they said that
half
they
in a way.
well they go to places and they're actually real photos that are digitally recreated to make them look bigger so they're not pixelated. So like for example, the cave where Mandalorian is fighting the Trandoshans in episode 2, that's an actual place somewhere that someone took a picture of and then they digitally recreated it to fit the parallax screen, which is mind-blowing because you're saving money on going to a different country and filming there, and you're helping out our economy by doing so, and it's more accessible, and it creates more opportunities, and it's very wild to think of that. And the cast episode is also a great. I love the Gino Carano stuff in that episode personally. Just hearing from her, and the one thing she said is like, I've never felt more in a role than I have in this. And she's played some really big roles. Like she was in the Fast and Furious franchise, and she was in Deadpool, and she played Haywire. And, for her to say that in this episode for this series, that's a big time deal. And it seemed like everybody involved was happy with her on top of just the directors and Favreau and Filoni. Kathleen Kennedy seemed pumped about her. The ILM people seemed pumped about her. So it's really cool to get a behind the scenes look at a show that is, kind of pushing the boundary for not just television, but just, film and camera-esque work in general. It's truly amazing to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. I agree. And the Gina Carano stuff was cool, how they were talking about how she's like, they don't have to train her for anything, like for combat scenes. Like she knows what to do.
Yeah, she knows how to take a punch in the face.
Yeah, exactly. And I understand where she's coming from with the characters thing, because even if you look at her character in Deadpool, no depth, nothing.
She had just 3 lines.
Yeah, just one-dimensional. And this character has depth, has a past, is doing things for a reason, and like doesn't want to help the Mandalorian, but does, and then helps this town, and then joins, I forget Carl Weathers' character's name. Reef Karga at the end. So like this character is like probably has the most depth than she's ever played before.
I love that they also, when they were envisioning her character, drew her before they asked her.
Oh yeah.
It was just like, that just kind of like made it more perfect. And then the thing that Jake, you kind of already said it. The thing I absolutely loved was when they brought George Lucas on the set, and he literally was like, this is what I wanted to do with Phantom Menace. And then they were like, he was 10 years ahead of his time. And you could literally see by the way he was.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Sorry.
Didn't they say 10 years ahead of his time?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. That he literally was like everything he did, he somehow figured out to do it with what was capable at that time. But he was already like 10 years ahead, thinking like this is what he wanted to do for the prequels. It's 2020 right now. First prequel came out when? 02? Oh,
99, bro.
Yeah.
God, I was trying not to age myself, thinking it was, but
hey,
99
the prequels still look good too, which is crazy.
Yeah,
like,
and we love we love the prequels, but just imagine this technology with the Padre scene.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's funny because he said he wanted to do it for the prequels. We're saying he's 10 years ahead when really he was 20, almost 20 years ahead, over 20, 21 years ahead, thinking of this. This is what I wanted. Who knows what he could have done or would have done had this been available to him.
Yeah, what did they call that board? Like I forgot what they called it. Like
Parallax.
Was that what it's called? But they were calling
the
it
screen?
Something else.
The big
like
screen,
something
right?
board or the something screen. Like it had like a practical name. Like maybe it was the Parallax, but they were calling it something like a moving screen or something like that. But that thing was just so cool.
They should have just called it George's Garage. That's what they should have called it.
They should have.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. I love hearing that story from Bryce Dallas Howard before we move on about how she heard about George's Garage, right? How he said, however long we're gonna be doing all this stuff in our garage, and lo and behold, on the first ever Star Wars live action show, they're basically doing it outside of in a garage, just in a studio somewhere.
In a studio lot garage. They're basically just big garages.
Exactly. And it's really crazy to think about, and it really is. It puts the show in even more perspective, because we don't get to see the technological aspect behind this stuff a lot. We hear about it in certain films, like if a movie pushes the boundary as far as Christopher Nolan doing this for his new film or whatever it may be, but we don't actually get to see it physically. And actually seeing how it plays out is a pretty big treat for anybody who's watching this.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told us that those desert scenes were shot in a desert and they just built the set, I would have believed you. 100%. I would have had no doubt. Yeah, they probably went to some deserted place and built a set and shot the scenes there. It's in a freaking warehouse with a big TV screen surrounded that they just made a little portion of it. And speaking of making, I was blown away with the prop sets that they made, like the Razor Crest thing is freaking huge, and it's just like a quarter of the ship, and it's like they'd stand next to it and you're like, whoa, like this thing is ginormous. Or like when they my favorite thing I think was when they showed him from the front angle where he's sitting in the pilot seat and just all the stars and stuff are going, but it's just like that gave me chills, because I'm like, can you imagine like being a fan of Star Wars and then being in something like that and just seeing that? I would just go berserk, and it's crazy and awesome to get to see the small things like that, because people love to see it. Just like when they showed how A New Hope was made, how he had the little models and everything. It's incredible, because these movies and TV show now are changing the way we do things. And it's who would have thought a simple Star Wars show like this would revolutionize how people are doing things like this. So it's incredible. And the more technology and the more that they get their hands on stuff, it's just going to get even more insane.
Yeah, well, that's going to go ahead and wrap up our Disney Gallery Mandalorian talk there. And we're going to move into our main topic for the next maybe like 30 minutes or so, somewhere around there. And like I mentioned up top, guys, we're going to be talking about Solo. And the reasoning behind this is because Make Solo 2 Happen Day happened this last Monday. All this credit is due to the Resistance broadcast, who is part of StarWarsNewsNet.com. They are a podcast that I personally follow. I listen to them. They're great. John James and Lacey over there. They did this for the first time. Yeah, they do. John James and Lacey over there. They did this last year, and it was a massive hit. Like, it was trending worldwide. It came out of nowhere. People started buying shirts and just tweeting and Instagramming, all that stuff. And of course, bringing it back annually on the day that Solo was released, May 25th. And so this is the 2-year anniversary of the movie, and this one was even bigger, getting over 20,000 tweets, hitting number 2 Twitter trending, which is massive. Wow. And that was all before like 11 a.m. our time, which is just insane to think about. And so we're going to talk about Solo and not just our feelings on the movie, and maybe a couple things that we personally like about the movie, but maybe some things that maybe have hindered it, and things that we can, or an idea we'd like to see for the future, whether it's a sequel movie or a sequel series. And so I kind of want this to be an overall just open discussion about the movie, not necessarily a review, but just kind of a rundown of it. I watched it again today. I watched it, I popped it on, and so I was able to watch it, which I haven't seen it in a while. And the movie's so much fun. Like, that's the one thing I could say about it, is that it's truly just a fun, adventurous movie. It has a lot of good in and outs, but The biggest thing that I walk away from the movie is that it truly is just a fun, adventurous, kind of like almost like a kid feeling type of Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it kind of does feel like that. I just rewatched it too. Like I just finished it like an hour ago, and I always liked this movie. Like from the day we left the theater, and I just don't understand like how people give such negativity to like The Last Jedi when they don't like it. But then this movie, like it neither got high praise nor high hate. It just was there. And maybe it has to do with a lot of maybe as many people didn't see it. But out of all how many movies have we had in the new era? 5?
Yeah.
I believe. Like to think like this movie for a lot of people might be their least favorite, but for me it's like my third favorite or out of these. So I like it a lot, but it's weird. Like as much as I like the movie, I still don't know like if I accept Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. Like that's the hard part. Yeah, I mean,
that's shocking to me.
It's like it's hard to do that because it's not just a random character. Like it's a character who one person has played for the whole time we've seen the character. So like I almost like I was trying to imagine it like what if that character wasn't Han Solo and this was just like a fun space Star Wars movie. Like I think it would have been received better, but I personally enjoy it a lot.
It's sitting at 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
That's pretty damn good. Like that's higher than I would expect.
Infinity War is at like 73 or something. That's something to put in perspective.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, first off, you can't go off those. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. In this case, I think
I was just saying,
No, I know. No, I'm just saying. Like sometimes they're absolutely right. Sometimes they're absolute crap. What is Rogue One at? I'm curious to see what that one would be.
Rogue One's at like an 87 or something.
Okay, so let
me look.
That's pretty accurate then. For those,
Rogue One's at 84.
Okay, well that was a great movie. So, I love this movie. Out of the two
saga
spin-offy movies, I've watched this one more because I think Rogue One is fantastic, but it's a heavy movie. This one's fun.
I think Solo's more rewatchable, to be honest.
It is.
Even though I like Rogue One more, I think Solo's more rewatchable.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of have to be in a mood to watch Rogue One just because it's not happy-go-lucky Star Wars.
Never.
What? No, go.
No, I'm not gonna say it. No, I'm not gonna say it. I don't want anybody taking it the wrong way. No, I don't want anybody taking the wrong way. It's fine.
I'm gonna wait until you.
No, go ahead, Brian.
Just stay quiet.
Brian, go ahead. Please move on.
It's funny because the thing that probably scared me the most when this movie was made was Alden I can't say his name. Alden Ehrenreich. Is that right?
Alden Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich. It's technically Ehrenreich, but Ehrenreich works.
Okay, that guy.
That's the German in me.
Yeah. He was the thing I was scared about the most, and I absolutely love him in this movie. His timing with the Han Solo type, like little like comebacks and stuff like that. To me, that is Han Solo. Like he does that, and if you do that, you embody a huge part of that character. And the way he plays off of all the other characters, it's so reminiscent of how he was in the originals. I absolutely love this cast. I think it's one of the best cast movies that we have gotten out of all of them. Because Donald Glover is fantastic as Lando. Fantastic. Emilia Clarke as Kira is she's one arguably sometimes steals that movie because you're more polarized by what she's doing. To be honest, I would love this movie and want it a sequel even without the way it ended, with Maul being the surprise guy like that. It was still a great movie. That just happened to make it that much better. But I love this movie. It's one of those ones that if I'm kind of like still awake and I want to fall asleep to something, it's 9 out of 10 times probably the movie I'm going to fall asleep to, just because it makes me like it's one of a feel good movie. So yeah, I really want a sequel bad out of this one.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that. We can talk about that. Maybe before we get to that, let's kind of discuss maybe what may have hindered it from being considered a successful movie or having sequel talks right away like typical Star Wars movies get. I personally think that a large part of it has to do with the marketing that was involved with it and the release date selection. Those are kind of the two that I go towards. And when I say marketing, I mean strictly just footage that was released and timing of that footage. I know a lot of people may go directly towards the offset problems that it had with the Chris Miller and Phil Lord stuff. Their names, I get them mix their names up all the time. But I stray away with that. I stray away from that because that happened over a year before the movie was actually released. I know it's still a huge issue with Lucasfilm in general, but as far as the movie's success go, I really do think that marketing and mostly the release date is a major issue because the movie's at 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, you don't see a lot of 70% movies that feel like they're 25% movies. Like, this feels like we're talking about a 25% movie when we talk about the majority of fans who relate to the movie. And so, yes, while it does baffle me that there isn't a sequel talk or anything like that, honestly, it came down to the gritty selection of money for Lucasfilm. Like, look, this movie didn't make money. People don't want it. But I feel like a large part of that is because they stuck it in May thinking they can wrap up Memorial Day weekend when it's not that type of movie.
Well, Bob Iger admitted that he kept it in May so they can have a big movie in that what do they call it, quarter of the economic quarter. So like we literally know the reason, and that's really unfortunate because they were coming off three movies in a row that made $1 billion.
Yeah.
Being released in December, and it's like, why not stick to what's working? I think this has to do with timing, not of the year, but timing of the franchise. Like, I think they should have waited to do this movie. I think coming off of The Force Awakens where we had Han Solo, and it was just so fresh. Like, it's not like we hadn't seen Han Solo in 20 years. So I think they should have waited till after the Skywalker saga was over and then made this movie. And I think it would have done well. And I agree with you, Jake, that I don't think the Chris Lord and Phil Miller stuff had anything to do with it because the general fans have no idea about that. Like, they don't even know who those guys are. So that people aren't going to be like, enough people aren't going to say, oh, I'm not going to go see it because of that. Like, and a Solo movie being 73, like, who knows what the other movie would have been like, the Phil Lord and Chris Miller one. But I don't know if it would have been received better than this movie. And this movie is not even, like, I feel like a lot of, I guess, YouTubers that we follow don't like it. Like, most of them don't like it. And that's why I was surprised that it's at 71%, because mainly, like, that's where we're getting our, like, general feel for what people like about it, you know? So it's hard. You can't listen to every critic, so it's hard to do that. But I could have sworn it was lower, though, the Rotten Tomatoes score. Tomato score, because you're right. It feels like people talk about it like it's a 25% movie.
Mm-hmm. It's higher than The Rise of Skywalker.
And I think the reason is not the only reason, but my main reason is like the timing of like where they released the movie, when they released it franchise wise. Like, they could have done Rogue One was fine. Like, that was cool. It was coming off the Return of Star Wars, coming off The Force Awakens. That was fine. But this movie, I think they should have waited for until after Episode 9.
I agree. That probably would have helped. I think for me, the thing that I feel like hurt this movie was two things. One, the toxic fandom that came from The Last Jedi. Two, the quickness of how this movie came out. People were still throwing temper tantrums about The Last Jedi. People turned hard on Star Wars at that point, and immediately were like, well, if that one's going to be bad, this is going to be bad because look at where it's going and blah, 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 blah. And they immediately killed this movie. Now, was it absolutely perfect? No. They had to basically shoot this movie twice. I mean, that's obviously going to hurt it. But mix that with the negativity and the bullcrap that came off of The Last Jedi, it was doomed to fail less than 5 months after a movie threw people up into this like whirlwind of we hate Star Wars now. We hate what Disney's ruining everything. Look at now they're going to ruin Han Solo and all that. And it doomed it. Now, say maybe it was coming out. Well, it wouldn't be this year right now, but maybe this year or next year might be a different story. I mean, you give a little bit of a gap from The Rise of Skywalker, let that cool down, probably would have been a huge success. But honestly, to me, the toxicness of and how close it came to Last Jedi, it was doomed from the beginning. You didn't even have to mention all the other stuff of like the reshoots and the drama that was happening. People were still fuming, throwing fits, doing all this crap for The Last Jedi. They didn't get that time to cool down like they did that 1.5 year gap to Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker got dragged through the mud, but not like The Last Jedi and Solo did. Is it a better movie than those two? Depends who you talk to. But Solo was not a bad movie in the slightest. It just got caught in a wave or in a riptide, whatever, and there was no escaping it. It was going to get dragged down at any point, being that close to The Last Jedi.
Brian, I think you're right.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, if you think about it, The Last Jedi came out in December, late December, or mid-December, right? Like 18th or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so The Last Jedi, all this hate and negativity, and how long was it in theaters for? It must have been in theaters until at least February.
Yeah.
So then Solo's 3 months later, which is crazy. Like, there was no time for this toxicness to die down. So I was going to say that's just a great point.
Yeah, I do like I definitely agree with Jacob that they probably should have waited 5 years after The Force Awakens came out or whatever, maybe to do this type of movie, kind of let the Han Solo thing die. Let the Han Solo thing move away.
Too soon.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. But I do think that the movie would have still really gotten under its feet if it had just came out that next December. Just keep the year,
it would have been better.
Just keep the year. Greed got in the way of Disney successfully allowing this movie to be what it should have been, because like we've been saying, it's not a bad movie. Sure, it has it. Every movie has bad things about it, and it definitely has some negative things to it, but it's not a bad movie. And I did want to say one thing though, Brian. You said that they basically had to shoot the movie twice. Is that the new hashtag release the original Solo?
No, because this movie's great.
The Lord and Miller cut.
It was a joke. Don't get all serious on it.
No. I'm not. I'm just saying, like,
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna even start, because then it's gonna spin into something else.
Disney would never do that. The Lord and Miller cut. There we go. Let's start it.
Release the Lord and Miller cut.
No.
On Disney
I mean,
Plus.
the Solo hashtag's already out there. Hashtag make Solo 2 happen. That's the hashtag.
Yeah. If that movie, now, if we would have gotten this version and it actually was absolute crap, then we'd have a different story. People would be attacking the movie, but you don't see people attacking the movie.
No.
Who's
just
attacking?
Go look on Twitter and click the hashtag Make Solo 2 happen and just look at the flood of tweets.
Well, yeah, exactly. Nobody talks like they hate it. Like even the people that don't like it, the YouTubers, they just say like, I just don't like it. Like they just say it doesn't work for me. Basically,
most of them I hear them say like, the movie's just there. Like it just happened.
Exactly. Nobody says I hate this movie. Like it sucks. I don't hear anybody say that.
No one attacks Solo like they do The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker. Force Awakens, no one attacks because that one was good.
There are people that attack The Force Awakens. When it first came out, there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's a remake of A New Hope," and all that stuff. So even Solo has gotten less hate than that. I think.
I think it's got the second less hate out of all of them because Rogue One was critically just like acclaimed by everybody.
I don't even hear anybody talk bad about
it. And then like so for like fan reaction, it essentially goes Rogue One, Solo, Force Awakens.
It's hard between those two. Yeah,
coin toss. That one's
that's a tough one.
I feel like it's still fresh, like the Rise of Skywalker.
Honestly, I feel like The Last Jedi is kind of lightened up a little bit. People are starting to kind of just like
the reason why I would put The Last Jedi above The Rise of Skywalker is because for a lot of people, The Rise of Skywalker made The Last Jedi better.
Oh well, I just binged watched all 3 in a row. I was literally like, and I did this within 24 hours. I was like, this is pretty good.
Actually, I haven't done that yet.
What time do you have on your hands?
I had a reason.
That's 9 hours worth of movies. Jesus.
Coming from you, I will not hear any of it.
What's wrong with me?
You'll binge watch movies 9 hours in a day if you could.
Yeah, not when I'm working.
Well, who wouldn't? But do we have time to?
Don't even get me started because I'll go.
No, listen, I want to do that now. I'm not saying 9 hours straight, but like at least 3 consecutive days, like watch one a day. I've never watched them that close together, so I want to do that.
Actually, really, I mean, we're going off tangent, but actually, this time when I was watching it straight through, I actually really enjoyed Last Jedi. I even kind of like didn't mind, shockingly, the Canto Bite stuff this time around. Like, it's still not great.
I'm gonna remove you from the StreamYard now.
Go ahead, because I don't even. Go ahead, because I don't even know. I can't believe myself. I'm saying it.
Hey, I'll admit it, and we'll get back on Solo here in a second. But I'll admit that the last time I saw The Last Jedi, which wasn't too long ago, probably right before The Rise of Skywalker, I didn't hate it either. I still despise the Luke stuff, but I do not hate the movie.
I don't dislike it as much as I once did, for sure.
Yes. All right, gentlemen. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up here with our final discussion on Solo here and what we kind of want to see for a sequel if we want to see one. And we can go as far as detailed as, revealing the story, or we can just talk about how we want it to be a movie or TV series. We'll go to one time here and kind of discuss it as we go along. I'll just go right to you, Jacob. First of all, do you want to see something, and how do you want to see it? If so.
I do want some type of continuation. I do. But I don't know if I want it to focus on Han necessarily. I don't know how much time is between the end of Solo and A New Hope. Because did they say
Solo takes place within the first 10 years of that 20-year gap?
They made a giant.
So there's more than half. There's more than 10 years.
So there's like 10 years.
There's like I want to say there's like 12 years between Solo and A New Hope.
Okay, so we're assuming that if he went to Tatooine after getting the Millennium Falcon, that he went there, started working for Jabba, and then had been working for Jabba, doing jobs for Jabba and other people for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's probably what the case was. So that could be interesting, but I think we all probably want something like this. I would love to see something focused on Kira and what's going on with her.
Of course you would.
And well, just because
I agree with
how
that.
she's
I do too.
well, because it's Emilia Clarke and she's amazing, but also like just the Crime Syndicate world,
Give her a dragon,
Crime Syndicate world, and the Crimson Dawn stuff. And look, I would love to see Maul in that, but you don't even have to have him. He could even just make a cameo, whatever.
He could just be hologram presence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
that's all he needs to be.
It could just be a situation where, okay, she's running this sector of Crimson Dawn, and like, it would basically be that underworld movie that they were talking, or series that they were talking about in a way, but where she's like a crime boss. But it'd even better because we already know her from Solo. We know that she's not necessarily a bad person. She's just trying to survive. And
Who does that sound like? Who does that sound like?
Han, kind of, in a way.
I like how he goes, Han, kind of.
Who does that sound like? Daenerys Targaryen.
Oh, a little bit, yeah. Well, yeah, but Daenerys is like wants to be a queen. This girl's just trying to like survive.
Hey man, you don't know that.
Maybe she's trying to be the leader of Crimson.
She might want to be. She might want to be Maul's queen. Who knows?
Look, she showed us that, like, look, she got involved in this world, this life, and she can handle her. She learned how to fight. She can do all this stuff. And also that she still has a little bit of that heart in her, but ultimately she chose, well, she did what she did partially to protect Han, but also she would rather go off and live this life in Crimson Dawn than just be Han Solo's girlfriend. So she chose that. And I would love to see, like, just kind of like not a mob story, but just like a criminal underworld story where she's a crime boss.
A crime story.
So it's not really a sequel to Solo.
Jacob
Queen
just wants
Kira.
Jacob just wants a Sopranos version of
yeah. Basically. No. But it would basically be a spinoff. I don't know what it would be called. Crimson Dawn. I don't know, but
you don't need to make it. You don't need to overcomplicate it. That's perfect.
Yeah, a Crimson Dawn starring Kira series on Disney Plus, rated TV mature.
All right, Brian, you're up next, man.
So I looked. It's before Rebels, and it's a pretty big gap when you look at the chart they officially did. It's a pretty large gap.
I want to say Han is probably within like the 24 to 26 range. And I believe he's 33 when we first meet him in A New Hope. So it's like in between like 6 and 12 years or something like that, somewhere in that range.
Well, yeah, this giant chart that I'm looking at right now, it's not far behind episode 3. But to be honest, I'm kind of torn on it. I don't know if I would rather see a movie or a TV show, because each of them I feel like gives their own advantage. Kind of agree with Jacob in the aspect of, if it is TV, I don't know if Han Solo would work as much as he would in a movie. I feel like that he's a very good movie character. I think people might have more of a problem with him or have a problem with this younger version if it was drawn out on TV. Whereas these other characters, basically anyone outside of Han and Chewie, would probably work as a TV show. Even Lando. I think Lando would probably be a decent TV show type character too. But I don't know if I don't know if I can see Han Solo and Chewbacca day in and day out as just kind of like this progressive thing. Now, it would be kind of cool because you're going to get more story out of a TV show than you are going to get a movie. You're going to fit in probably 1, maybe 2 stories in that 2.5 hours max. Whereas if you get a TV show, you're going to get 8 hours. So, well, actually, you shouldn't even say 8 hours. You're going to get 8 episodes. So I don't know what I would rather have. If we're going to continue telling Solo, I think I might rather have a movie. If you're going to tell like Crimson Dawn and all that, then maybe probably a TV show. I think for me, the big deciding factor is where are they going to go with the story of this? Because if it's going to stick to Solo and his character in Chewbacca and stuff, then I probably would go movie. But if we're gonna get into criminal aspect and stuff like that, maybe a TV show. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. But if I had to pick, probably arm behind my back, I probably would go TV show. Just with the way, or excuse me, movie. I would probably go movie.
Yeah, I agree. If it's actual Solo, then a movie. But I don't know if they would ever do it, man. I don't know.
Hopefully they see that the fans want it, and maybe that'll happen. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think that if just quickly say that if it was Crimson Dawn, which is I think the one that we all want to see, TV series works best for that specific story. I think that it just allows more time. If they do something with Solo, I would like to see a movie personally. But the one that we haven't talked about and that I would absolutely love to see more of is Amphis Nest and the Marauders. I think that character is really, really rich and really prime for a very cool TV series. I don't know if she can necessarily hold down a movie because I don't know how much story is there, but I do think that there could be a really cool TV series based around her and her Marauders, or maybe how that all happened. Whether it's just a limited series or something like that. Rewatching it, I forgot how cool and interesting that character really is. And the reveal of them essentially being like another cell of the rebellion and being outlaws who are working with someone they don't usually work with, but because they have the same enemy, they're working together. And that could be very, very cool. But, if it comes down to it, I always want Star Wars on the big screen, and so I would obviously love a straight sequel following Han and Chewie. That's what I want to see. But the thing that's more likely to happen, I would probably say a Crimson Dawn TV series is probably the thing that'll more than likely happen, because you can easily get Amelia Clark back on a TV series. She's done it before for years, and she if she loved the character enough, if there's a rich story, you can probably do that and easily create a world around her. After the way that movie left off.
I just thought of a perfect way to do it, at least in my opinion. I think it would be kind of awesome and honestly kind of unique and clever for them to take this movie. We have this movie, brought in the Crimson Dawn storyline through a TV show. Maybe Han and Chewie appear in an episode, do it for maybe a season or two, end the story with a movie, with the second movie go like that.
Could be interesting. That could be very interesting.
That's
might be confusing
cool,
for people, but
that they can do things like that.
It might be confusing, but you're gonna get the context of Crimson Dawn that you want. What is she doing? How is she gonna? Because in the end, she's probably gonna get to some point of pretty decent power, and I don't know if you can fit that all in the movie, but if you show this buildup of her just this character on the rise and stuff, and then whatever happens come that final movie, because you don't even really have to use Maul in the TV series, maybe a hologram or something, but then if he needs to come full front in that movie, you get the drama of that character coming to the big screen again, because people would freak the hell out.
It's tough because I don't think we're ever going to see Han Solo interact with Kira or Maul, or Kira ever again, or Maul ever.
You don't think Han Solo and Kira will interact again?
I don't think so. I think that might have been the last time they see each other, unless there is a sequel and she dies or something. But I think her leaving him and ditching him after this movie was a lesson that Han learned, and why he kind of does not settle down for any other woman until he meets Leia. So I think that was the whole point of Kira kind of betraying to Han. To Han, it looks like Kira betrayed him. So I think that was the whole point of that. And I think if you do Crimson Dawn and Maul, it's separate from Han. If you do a Han Solo sequel, I think it's going to be its own adventure, separate from Kira and Crimson Dawn. And I want both. I'll take both. But
who's to say they both can't happen?
they could, and they almost could be completely separate, because
Yeah.
I felt like, because Maul says, let's go figure out what to do about Beckett and his the people who are with him, whatever, accomplices. But I feel like Kira's going to veer him away from thinking that, ever finding out who Han Solo and Chewbacca were.
Yeah.
Because if he does, he's going to go try to kill them. And we know that doesn't happen.
Do we think it's a matter of when, not if, there will be some type of like crime syndicate live action show on Disney Plus?
It's if. Or it's when. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. And it might not be Crimson Dawn, but they're going to do something with that.
It's Prime. I do think that at some point, Star Wars is going to start adopting what Marvel did and putting genres within genre. And Solo is kind of the first part of that, with the heist aspect, and the crime aspect could be something that they like the Cassian Andor series is going to be a very politically spy thriller type of show. Obi-Wan, we're yet to be determined, right? Mandalorian, a Western, right? They're kind of already adopting genres within a genre. And I do think that crime aspect will for sure be adopted at some point.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, Kira being a crime boss would be perfect, because like we've seen so many TV shows or movies where there's a male crime boss, and it's already set up perfectly. She could easily just slide into that. Like, she takes over Paul Bettany's role in Dryden Voss's role in the in Crimson Dawn, and boom, lady crime boss. That'd be dope.
And if anyone's going to be a lady crime boss, I think people would get behind her pretty freaking quickly.
Well,
she's gonna have to find a Star Wars creature.
She can handle herself too. Like, I love her fight at the end, and the way she kills Dryden Voss. It's
so she like slides and does that.
Like, and like she gets her weapon his weapon on the thing and puts it in his chest. Just so cool.
So dope.
She would be a badass.
Right. Well, there it is, guys. This week's Padawan podcast. I think that wraps up our Solo discussion. Make Solo 2 happen. Make sure you guys are sharing it all over social media. And let's try to, we're a small band of rebels, but we're trying to fight for a good cause here. So hashtag Make Solo 2 happen. But so make sure you guys are letting us know down below in the comments what you think of Solo. We would love to hear from you guys on this movie, because it is a widely thought of movie and very, very different opinions. So we would love to hear. We all have the same opinion, and so if you guys have a very different opinion, if you're listening, if you're watching, we'd love to hear from you guys. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Google, any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you guys. You guys can also find us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Apocaflix Movies. Very, very simple there. And then our personal ones right down there below. So this is the normal panel. Padawan podcast is usually every Tuesday, but because of Memorial Day, we push it back a day this week, and we hope you enjoyed the show. So for Brian, for Jacob, for myself, this is the Padawan podcast for Apocaflix Movies. We thank you for joining us. We will see you guys next week, and may the Force be with you.